It's not uncommon for games to take a step outside the box and try something different, even if it sometimes ends with mixed results.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
But let's not pretend that games that tried something different always flopped. After all, some of the best follow-ups did something different entirely, such as Metroid Prime, which changed Metroid into a first-person action game instead of a side-scrolling platformer. And Metroid Prime was beloved by many. But for every Metroid Prime, there is unfortunately a Resident Evil 6 to muck things up. That all being said, being a different kind of game from its predecessor is not always the mark of a bad game, but it definitely means a game will be judged far more harshly, and such is the case with Starfox Adventures. Technically the third entry in the Starfox franchise, but we'll get to that technicality in a moment, so hold on to that. Starfox Adventures released on the Nintendo Gamecube in 2002, and was developed by Rare, the same Rare that had made a name for themselves as a second-party developer for Nintendo, making such classic games such as Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, and Battletoads. So needless to say, most people would have imagined this game was in good hands. And for the most part it was, but there was some caveats to that. This game began life back on the N64 in 1999 as Dinosaur Planet, which was supposed to be a new IP with Crystal as the player character. Sometime down the road, though, it was reworked into a Star Fox game with Crystal taking a backseat and Fox becoming the star of the show. A decision that to this day has still been met with some controversy, but it did give birth to Crystal, a character that many people feel is a worthy addition to the Star Fox cast. And many furries' wet dream, as she was given birth to a ton of not safe for work fan art. Starfox Adventures would be in development for a lengthy 5 years, but I think we all know what happened in the end. Rare was on the purchasing table, and in the end, Nintendo lost the bid to Microsoft, who ended up purchasing Rare, which ultimately went through the day after this game released. So many theorized that when the sale was confirmed for a specific date, they had to get this game out and not delayed any further. And so a lot of the original ideas for this game, such as Crystal playing a larger role as a second playable character like the original Dinosaur Planet game, had to be cut. This is also why the actual space sections of the game felt very tacked on, apparently. This is all allegedly, of course, as nothing is confirmed concretely and there are mixed stories on what really happened, as employees have given conflicting accounts. Many people say that Shigeru Miyamoto insisted on forcing this game into a Star Fox game, but I keep finding conflicting stories on that. And what it sounds like to me is that Rare and Miyamoto wanted to marry the two ideas into one game conjointly. Nintendo wanted to retain as much of the original Dinosaur Planet as possible, even insisting on Crystal staying in the game when Rare considered dropping her entirely, even sending people to Rare Studio to aid in her final design. This wasn't a case of Nintendo taking over an idea and forcing it into their own, but rather an attempt at marrying two similar ideas into one that would give it a better chance at finding an audience by connecting it to a known IP that people were waiting for a new entry from. There is a rumor that Nintendo likely only added Star Fox license to the game to stop the game from appearing on Xbox after the buyout, but I don't think that's the case, as the game was in talks of being turned into a Star Fox game long before the buyout was confirmed. So while there may be some truth to this, I doubt it. Star Fox Adventures, of course, became the only game that Rare developed for the GameCube, and would be their final game made for Nintendo's home consoles. They would eventually also release a few Game Boy Advance and DS games before their partnership with Nintendo would be completed, but Star Fox Adventures would remain the lasting game that most people remember as their final game made for Nintendo, and it was the last Nintendo property that they worked on. So this game was their final legacy before being shoved over to Microsoft to make a handful of actually good games, before producing nothing but slop for years on end. A lot of people seem to be under the impression that the company went downhill the instant they switched over to Microsoft, but that isn't entirely true. They actually released a handful of decent games in the Xbox, and even the Xbox 360 before starting to see trouble. Many key people with Rare would start leaving over the years. And you know what they say, if you replace all the parts in the ship to the point where there's nothing left of the original ship, is it really the same ship anymore? With the cancellation of Everwild and disappointment that was the launch of Sea of Thieves, it's easy to see that Rare just isn't what it used to be. And realistically, most of the key people, like I said, have left the studio to go work elsewhere. So it's not surprising that people say they don't have the same brand recognition as they once did. Star Fox Adventures for many people is the day that Rare stopped being Rare, and just started being Microsoft. But what of it? What is Star Fox Adventure like? Why is this such a divisive game among fans? Well, let's get into that. So the first thing we have to get out of the way, and it will likely be the thing most of you watching this video want to say, is that this isn't a Star Fox game. because it's not a space shooter where you go around shooting enemies as a spaceship while dodging obstacles like the previous games. And yes, I hear you on that one, but I have one point to make regarding that. At the time this game came out, there were only 3 Star Fox games, including this one, as Star Fox 2 for the Super Nintendo was cancelled and wouldn't officially release until 2017 on the Super Nintendo Classic, and then eventually Switch Online. So all you had was Star Fox 1, Star Fox 64, which is a reboot of Star Fox, therefore theoretically make a somewhat of a remake of Star Fox 1, and then this game. So realistically, there was only 3 games in the series, and the second game was a reboot of the first game. So it's not as though there was an established format of what made a Star Fox game yet. So it could be argued that Star Fox was still trying to find its identity. So it makes me a little bit more forgiving of this game. And besides, just because something doesn't follow the general established formula, of which there isn't really one yet, that doesn't inherently make it bad, right?
And I suggested that one marinate.
Rather than judge this game solely on the fact that it's different, we should look at it as a standalone experience and not focus on the fact that it's not the same as its older brothers. So for the rest of this video, let's just forget about the fact that it's not an on-the-rail space shooter and try to judge this game based on what it actually is trying to be, and what it is, a third-person action-adventure game. Okay, I think we can just call this what it is. This game is basically a Zelda clone, sharing a lot of similarities with Ocarina of Time and how it plays. You have melee combat, pressing L to focus the camera straight forward, unlocking new areas by finding items that let you explore new parts of the map. Yeah, okay, it's a Zelda clone. I get that might turn a lot of people off, but the question really is does it play as good as a Zelda game? And the answer is, for the most part. I will definitely say if this is a Zelda game, it's much more of a basic, bare bones one, not having much diversity in the items at your disposal as Zelda does, and definitely lacking in the enemy variety. Combat feels pretty simplistic, often just you whacking enemies with your staff, but a lot of the other Zelda DNA feels about right, even when it doesn't make sense. Something that felt really off to me is for some reason there's no jump button. Jumping is automatic from when you're moving from a platform that could be reached by a jump. Similar to how it works in Ocarina of Time, I suppose this feels especially odd now given that the modern Zelda games actually have a dedicated jump button. For some reason it just feels silly that Fox can't do certain things. Like not being able to get out of water because the platform is not a designated spot to enter and exit water, even though a very easily reachable ledge is right in front of you. Another annoyance I have, which is a constant one, is aiming the staff. Rather than just have you aim the crosshair directly, the crosshair will turn dead center when you release the joystick, meaning you have to hold it at a very steady, specific spot to aim, which is super annoying and can make some of the puzzles far more frustrating than they need to be. This is a particularly weird design choice that I don't see any actual benefit to, besides just making time puzzles where you have to aim more annoying anyway.
Now the main problem area is up here. All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort. It's like a visceral reaction of discontent coming from this area.
Otherwise, the game actually plays pretty decently, and it does feel pretty fluid control-wise most of the time. It's clear that Rare tried to make the game feel as natural as possible on the Gamecube, and I'd say they succeeded overall, though a bit flawed at times. Like, I could go on about minor annoyances such as where you climb a wall, you're kind of committed to it, and there's no way to just jump off the ledge and speed things up, but it's really a tiny insignificant design flaw in my opinion. There are other design flaws, don't get me wrong, but we'll get to those. Overall, the controls feel good mostly, and design-wise you're given a pretty vibrant, colorful environment to look at, and areas you explore are fairly diverse. Admittedly, you may get stuck on what to do from time to time, but you can call upon Slippy for advice from the main menu screen on what to do next.
Slippy here? Got yourself stuck again?
But there's no way around it. Your first time playing may be a bit longer than any subsequent playthroughs due to getting semi-stuck on what you're supposed to do if you're not using a guide. I actually think it's pretty interesting to try and actually develop some more story for the Star Fox franchise, as this game focuses more on introducing new characters and developing Fox's personality a bit more than previous games. And of course his personality is that of a guy who just wanted to get the job over and done with, as Fox seems to lack much in the way of patience.
And that's the exit!
Okay. Thanks.
I'm here, guys. Mission accomplished. Contact General Pepper so we can get paid.
She is gonna be okay, isn't she, Fox?
Are you sure you finished down there? The planet's not back together yet.
What can I say? I guess he's a guy who just wants to get paid and doesn't deal with nonsense. Of course, we have the establishment of Crystal as a character who, while she doesn't feature too much in this game, is interesting in her own right. Albeit, I have no idea why they bothered creating a gibberish language for her to speak. It's like they're sort of going for like a Klingon thing, but worse. I can't deny that her design is cool though. She definitely feels like she fits in the Star Fox universe at least. And from my understanding, she makes an appearance in later games as a character in her own right, not just as the maiden to be rescued by Fox. Okay, let's just get this part out of the way. I'm not into furry stuff, but from my understanding, let's end the pointless debate now. Yes, Crystal was designed to add sex appeal to the Star Fox franchise, given that many official renders make that very clear. It's not for me, but I know some people are into that, and that's fine. Unfortunately though, Crystal's sexualized design is just something you can't avoid mentioning when talking about this game sometimes, as it was her introduction, and yes, she is an icon in certain not safe for work communities, which I'm not going to get into any further. Overall though, I do think Crystal is a cool character, and I wish there was more of her in the game beyond her opening segment and her eventual rescue. It is good that she got some time to shine in later entries, even if the series is kinda dormant now. Overall, I'd say the gameplay is fine. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it plays decent enough. Music-wise, it's pretty damn good, and the theme for the Thorntail Village gets stuck in my head. The weakest part of this game, ironically, is, as I mentioned, the space shooter sections, because they feel very tacked on. And that's because they kinda were. But I suppose this is sort of a taste of what it could have been, huh? Our story begins when Crystal receives a distress signal from Dinosaur Planet, so she sets out to investigate. After some exploring, she comes face to face with the big bad guy, General Scales.
General Scales. Hiku, Kohud, Otaskuki, Eve Dinosaur Planet.
Crystal's staff is knocked out of her hands, and thus she has to navigate to the next area, San's weapon.
Because he didn't have weapon.
This section reeks of missed potential, because I actually would have loved to see how Crystal handles the staff, no innuendo intended there. Regardless, she flies to the Krazoa Palace, where she releases the Krazoa spirit, which is necessary to protect the planet. But she is imprisoned within a crystal. Huh. Very meta. Crystal in a crystal. Anyway, with prologue over, we flip over to Fox and his crew.
That should be it, Rob. Go next.
Affirmative. I'll get back to work.
Hey, Fox! Isn't this music getting on your nerves? I'm trying to work on my maps.
Okay, old timer. Turn it down, Slippy. Hey! Slippy, it's General Pepper.
General Pepper here! I have a new mission for you, Fox. You are approaching Dinosaur Planet, an ancient world on the edge of the Lilat system. As you will see, chunks of the planet have been torn from its surface. It's your job to get them back. If Dinosaur Planet explodes, it could affect the entire Lilat system. The only lead we have is that you must locate the Queen of the Earthwalker dinosaur tribe. Maybe she can help you further. Either way, your fee has been approved. If you are successful, then the money will be forwarded to you immediately. Pepper out!
You heard the General. Let's do it.
Upon arrival on the planet, Fox says the most sensible thing ever.
Okay, General. But what about a weapon? Why couldn't I bring my blaster?
It's always the same with you, Fox. Shoot first, ask questions later. This mission is about saving the planet, not blowing it up. It requires a different tactic. Try using your head.
Yeah, very funny, sir. Fox out.
No, I'm actually with Fox on this one. Literally, a blaster would have been infinitely more useful on a planet of actual dinosaurs. Like, what is General Pepper thinking? But because Fox is forbidden from using a weapon that actually be useful in this scenario, he's forced to instead pick up the staff that Crystal lost, which landed here on Dinosaur Planet's surface. He's told telepathically by Crystal how to use it, and then he's off to save Dinosaur Planet. The first thing he has to do is rescue the Earthwalker Queen, which sends him to Ice Mountain for an insanely frustrating snowmobile minigame. This thing is super frustrating until I figure out you don't have to actually run these guys off the track, but instead you have to get ahead of them, which I might add isn't so easy either, as the window for error is very narrow, and thus this might take you a few attempts like it did for me, forcing you to sit through the cutscene for failure multiple times over, might I add. Because yeah, there's no way to skip cutscenes in this game. Eventually though, you pull it off, and Fox reunites the Earthwalker Queen's son, Tricky, with her, only to attempt to wrap the mission up there and then and just be scolded for trying to bail on the job.
Are you sure you finished down there? The planet's not back together yet.
Seriously, Fox is not that committed to this mission, is he? The end goal here is to try to find all the spell stones and restore the planet into one piece, so Fox sets out to find the first one, which is located in Snowhorn. Tricky is your new companion for most of the game, and he's needed to get past certain obstacles. He can dig in spots that Fox can't, and even uses fire breath to burn down things in Fox's way. But you gotta remember to feed the little guy or he won't do diddly for you. Right away you get a good idea of the gameplay loop of Starfox Adventures, involving finding power-ups for your staff, which increases abilities which are used to help you get to new areas, along with items that are needed to progress as well. Finding keys, bombs, etc., it's all very much Zelda in that respect, as you can return to previously visited areas with power-ups and try to gain access to new sections. Fox manages to acquire the Spellstone from Snowhorn. He's told by a mysterious voice that someone needs help, and he must find the remaining 4 Krazoa spirits. At first he's dismissive of this, trying to focus solely upon the paid mission, but after getting some nagging from Tricky, he indulges this objective until he comes face to face with Crystal, who's in prison and is kind of a creep about it, I ain't gonna lie.
Wow, she's beautiful.
Once Fox sees the super hot girl though, he's locked in, and thus we have our secondary objective outside of finding the Spellstones, and that's finding the Krazoa spirits and placing them back in the temple to free Crystal from her imprisonment, because Fox wants the booty. I'm dead serious, Fox basically decides it's super important that he has to rescue her now, despite being nonchalant about it only a few minutes ago, once he sees how hot she is, that is. I guess despite being a fox, he still operates more with a reptilian brain, doesn't he? I guess I can't knock him too hard. After all, many of us have acted stupid to impress a girl. I bought a copy of Final Fantasy XIII to make my girlfriend happy once. Next, Fox goes to get the second Spellstone, which requires him to go to the Cloud Chaser Fortress, but Tricky has beef with them, so he won't be joining. Dinosaur racism is weird. Fox manages to get the second stone and heads towards Lightfoot Village, where you're met with an irritating minigame. So this just sucks, because when you fail you have to do it all over again, you have to hit the button at the right time, and the window gets smaller and smaller each one. It's frustrating, requires you to rewatch the cutscene over and over every time you fail. Eventually you pull it off though, and Fox takes the tribe's challenge to prove he's worthy of entering the Krazoa Shrine to get the next Krazoa spirit, which he snags and returns to the Krazoa Temple once again to get one step closer to rescuing his waifu. Fox goes to the next area, beats an actual T-Rex, gets another Krazoa spirit, and then, oh god!
Oh, somebody kill me, please!
Okay, so Dragon Rock is literally the worst area in the entire game. It is full of frustrating sequences that really highlight how bad the aiming controls are with the staff, and there are multiple of them.
Kill me! I want to die!
On top of really tricky puzzles that require timing and aiming, and it sucks. Some of which I am confident wouldn't even be beatable without abusing known glitches and insane luck. This has to be easily the least polished area of the game, and it leans heavily on the frustrating side of game design. Virtually every single part of this level was just insanely frustrating, and hard to pinpoint a singular flaw, as the entire thing just sucks. Fox gets the last Krazoa spirit, only to discover there was one more possessed by General Scales, who dies instantly. Talk about build-up with no payoff. Fox discovered it was a plot by Andros, who used the Krazoa spirits to revive himself with Crystal's energy. And you are then put up against probably the most annoying boss fight ever, which is ironically set up like a traditional Star Fox game where you fight him in the R-Wing. It's kind of strange that the least polished parts of this game are the R-Wing sections, because that's like what Star Fox is supposed to be about, I guess. This guy is super annoying, and he has a move that sucks you in and basically resets the fight. You have to do this all in one flawless run, but fortunately our friend Falco makes an appearance to save our sorry behind. Once Andros is defeated after like 200 attempts, the day is saved, Fox gets paid, and acquires a new lady friend.
Left with just one more thing to do. and that's to say thank you.
Well, okay. I mean, sure, no problem.
You're not shy, are you, Fox?
My sensors indicate Fox's temperature is rising. Are you okay, Fox?
I'm gonna be just fine.
If you're hoping for a new game plus, well, you're out of luck there. There really isn't much to unlock, but you can explore around and find the rest of the optional upgrades such as the staff energy upgrades, sound room tests, all that. While I compared this to a Zelda game that has similar style of gameplay, Starfox Adventures definitely lacks the optional side content to find that Zelda games do, as the majority of things there are to find are required for the main story, and there isn't a whole lot of them. It's not a tremendously long game either, clocking at around 12 hours unless you find yourself really stuck in what to do, and definitely some of the parts within Dragon Rock will take you numerous tries, as the difficulty fighting controls will cause considerable frustration. The real thing to talk about here is Starfox Adventures really any good? And is it worth playing? And that's a super difficult question to answer. Starfox Adventures starts off with a semi-strong starting point, and the gameplay feels like there was some level of polish done in the start of the game, but much of the late game feels a bit more on the rush side, and the controls definitely could be ironed out a bit better. Not to mention it's no secret that a lot of the game had to be scaled down to get it out on time, so it's hard to say what could have been. But I definitely think if Rare had maybe another year or so with this one, we have gotten a much better game. That's not to say Starfox Adventures is awful, but I can see why it got a lot of the criticism that it did. And not just because it wasn't a traditional Star Fox game. Many of its flaws actually lay outside of that fact. In fact, the fact that it wasn't a traditional Star Fox game was actually the bottom of my list of things that I wasn't thrilled about with it. Its biggest flaw has to be missed potential. And that's a damn shame because of the fact that we never got any kind of similar game. Which sucks because I can see value in the formula here that was being gone for. And I think if the devs got to give it more attention, it would have been a far better game. Is it a hidden masterpiece? No. Is it a conventional Star Fox game? Also no. But is it Eternal Sonata levels of bad? Definitely not. And that's where I stand on this. Starfox Adventures has some high points and a lot of good to it, but it's a flawed game, leaving it sitting somewhere between good and okay. I would have really liked to see Crystal develop more as a character and maybe seen her section expanded into more of the game, and definitely saw the controls ironed out more. The second half of this game makes it very clear that this was a product that they were racing to finish on time, because you can really feel the lack of polish there. There are mixed stories, as I said, on what really happened during this game's development, so it's hard to say what the truth is, but I think there's tons of channels that broke down the full story to the best of their knowledge. But I didn't want to go into this retrospective with preconceived ideas from other videos, so I try to make it a point to not be influenced by other channels as much as possible. I will say that Matt McMuscles did a pretty lengthy video on the game's development, so I will say go ahead and give that a watch, as I'll be doing that the moment this video goes live so I can learn more about what exactly went down beyond my own current knowledge myself. Starfox Adventures stands alone as a Star Fox game, but it tried to do something bold, and I can praise it for that. It's not exactly easy to step outside the box, and the risks are often high for deviating from the accepted norm, especially in a fickle market. While the end result may be a bit lackluster compared to what could have been, I can respect the attempt. I would rather have 100 Starfox Adventures than the pig trough full of generic shooters all trying to mimic the successes of Fortnite, Valorant, or whatever craze is relevant when you're watching this video. What I mean to say is, I would rather developers take a chance on something completely out there that ends up just so-so, than just playing it safe over and over again. Fortune may not always favor the bold, but that's not a reason to stay safe with the familiar forever. It's okay to stick with what you know when you can't think of anything else, but it's not an excuse to stop trying. Starfox Adventures may not be a home run, but I definitely think it's a respectable effort that is worth checking out, if not to just say you checked it off and gave it a fair shake. Just remember that your mileage may vary. Or you can check it out because you want to goon to Crystal. No judgment here, I guess. With Fox making a major appearance in the recently released Mario Galaxy movie, I'm hoping this means a comeback for the franchise, but only time will tell if Nintendo decides they want to give the Lylat system hero another shot. Whatever the case may be, you should check out our Discord server. I'll leave a link for it in the description below. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I do retrospectives like this one on retro or retro-inspired games, so subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Anyway, I'm WizPlay, and that's enough of that.